Everything is happening through these screens.
How are we getting the most out of that person?
I want to see this thing grow long term.
Amazing story. You have such a unique perspective on that.
Schedule a 2-week vacation.
I applaud those models.
Undervalue.
Secure your digital footprint as well.
Why were they even put in place in the first place?
Only the most adaptable survive. Let's get to the leaders list. Cyndi Thomason didn't start with a business plan. She started with her family, and she started with a side hustle. Then she found the profit first methodology. That changed everything for her. She ended up starting Bookskeep. She authored Profit First for e-commerce sellers. And she's recently even started her second business with her husband to support the kind of life that she wants to live. So if you're tired of building a business that drains you, this conversation may flip the way you think about profit, purpose, and what sustainable success really looks like. I'm Bryon Morrison. Let's get to the leaders list. Cyndi Thomason, thank you so much for being on the leaders list.
Thank you for having me, Bryon. I'm excited to be here. Look forward to talking.
This is great. I mean, I love, entrepreneur is fantastic, but multiple entrepreneur, multiple book author, you've got a ton of great stuff to share. So we're thrilled to be able to learn from you today. And so why don't we start off with you just tell us a little bit about you and your companies and help us kind of all get some context for what you do.
Okay, sure will. I started Bookskeep 11 years ago. And I did that because I was a stay-at-home mom teaching my daughter who had some learning disabilities and trying to get her to all the tutoring things. But I just found that my brain was needing something to engage with. I had worked in the corporate world for a while. Some friends needed some help, so I launched this bookkeeping business and very quickly met Mike Michalowicz, who wrote Profit First, and joined his organization. And that was just really a big turning point for me because became a Profit First professional, and he encouraged me to niche into the e-commerce space. And after a few years of doing that, I saw all kinds of opportunity to help my e-commerce clients be more profitable. And I wrote Profit First for e-commerce based on that experience. Like I said, we've been around about 10 years and have a team of about 25. A lot of them are part-time. And then this year in January, we launched Your Profit Team, and that's where we're focusing on the advisory side. We've been doing this for folks for probably 8 years or so, but we really wanted to focus on building that up individually, not trying to do it together. So that launched in January.
I think that's so compelling because there's a lot of companies that, the longer you're around, the more established you get, the more you start to introduce other services. And to you, it's incredibly obvious, right? I mean, you've added a whole new service line and it's very simple to understand. And of course we do that. Yeah. But for the people who are buying the services, they think of you one way, and it's difficult for them to kind of understand that you can do other things.
Yeah, especially because our name was Bookskeep,
Right.
We pretty well told people what we did, So
yeah, it's funny because when we talk to companies about, preparing their company to be able to sell, brand and name comes into it a lot because, if it's, Bryon Morrison's company, people are like, well, I'm not sure I'm going to get any brand value out of Bryon Morrison's company.
Yeah. How long will you sell your picture?
Yeah, exactly. You can have my likeness, the whole thing. So when you got into, you've always focused on e-commerce companies, or was that also a strategic decision that you started narrowing down and focusing on that?
No, space? I was just a broad, general, kind of a local bookkeeper, had, a bicycle shop and a social media firm and, all of the different things. And, but working with Mike at Profit First, the author of Profit First, Mike Michalowicz, he's like, the way to make this work, to really build a business, is to niche down. And I had a handful of e-commerce clients, and I really loved working with them because they were tech savvy. Everything that they do is logging into their Amazon portal or their Shopify portal or their 3PL, and they didn't have to. They didn't expect me to come be at their office and look through the receipts that they had saved, and that was really important to me. I didn't want. I had that, and I didn't like that piece of it, and it made it harder for me because I was primarily raising my daughter, and so that just kind of lined up as I felt like I like technology too. I'm usually an early adopter of things like that. And so it just seemed like those were my kind of people. And so that's why I chose to niche down with them. And at first it was really broad, but over the years we figured out, okay, these are really the types of e-commerce people that we like to work with. So it's gotten even tighter.
And what happened to your business when you finally realized that, the riches are in the niches? Like, what was it? Was it dramatic, or was it something that you kind of eased into? Just talk about, like, what was that experience like?
It was not dramatic at first. It was, we didn't get rid of any clients. And when we had referrals from our clients that were, not in e-commerce, we would take them, we would work with them, at least initially. And so it was just a decision to concentrate on that tech stack and to concentrate on our marketing efforts in the niche specialization. And then over time, attrition took care of some clients that were, in various other industries. And we still have, I still have a handful of clients that I've still got client number 2 and 3 and 4. So, they still hang on, and they're in the service business. So our work for them is honestly easier than what it is in e-commerce. And so we love those guys and love working with them. So we just keep that going too. But it does become the other e-commerce.
Yeah, and it becomes easier to get new clients, right? Once you start to be recognized for a specific specialty, and then after that, you actually are a specialty, you're better at it, and you know their business. And
yeah, exactly. So we can offer insights to them that, they come to us asking, well, how much should I be spending on ads? How much inventory should I have going into Q4? And we've got data to help them make those decisions, and experience that we can provide some guidance. And I would say the thing that really changed things for me is when I wrote the book, and when Profit First for e-commerce sellers came out, that's when things really ramped up, and we grew quite a bit as a result of that.
Yep. And so today, let's talk about the stage of business that you're in. You have Bookskeep. You still run that. It's a stable business, like I said, about 25 people. And now you have this new business. And so how would you describe the stage how do you describe both of those stages if somebody just asked you?
Bookskeep is, the systems are in place. It runs. We created it over 6 years ago. We worked with Mike when he was creating his book Clockwork to build the business so it could run without us. And for 6 years, we've taken month-long vacations so that
Good for you.
The team can, it's almost harder for us because we take everything off our phone, and it's hard to leave. We've gotten better at it. It was really hard the first few years, but it's a total disconnect from the business. And the team, while they could call us if they wanted to, it's a kind of a point of pride for them not to have to bother us, and that they'll figure things out, And that's the thing that really surprised me when I came back from that first vacation, was they loved the trust that we had placed in them, and they earned it, and they wanted to keep that level of responsibility. So that business, we work in a little bit, but not the bulk of my time anyway, is on developing the marketing presence around the new business. My husband is more, he's my business partner, and he works in the operations, and he's primarily working to get all of the systems in good place on the operations side. And we're nearly there. We've just started having conversations about stepping back, not working as many hours, and maybe cutting our time down to 3 days a week So, I mean, we're nearing retirement age. And so, you have the question of, do you sell or do you keep going? But we still feel like we've got a lot that we enjoy, and we enjoy the people. And so it's really more of how can we just have a little more flexibility?
Yeah. So as you're looking for more flexibility and you've got a solid team, you decide, well, let's start over.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Seems natural.
Yeah. Well, there's a little bit of freedom when you're thinking about what would I do if I just was, had a blank piece of paper? Where do I really want to spend my time? And the fun part for me is growing something and building it. And the advisory piece of it was always really interesting to me. That's why I wrote the book. And so it was a chance to build that the way it would best serve our clients. And so again, I'm building it to not work in it. I'm building it to get it going. But
Smart.
yeah.
Smart. So that is in startup mode. You just got
Yeah.
started in January, right?
Yeah, but we did bring over probably 11 or 12 clients that were using those services from Bookskeep. We just moved them into the new business, and we basically doubled that in the 10 months or so of this year already. So
That's great.
it's
So
going
you were your first best customer.
Yeah, exactly. We knew we had a base to start with.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. So what's on your leaders list right now? Like what's your primary thing that you're working on? I know you said the marketing platform for the new company, but is that the primary focus?
That's really the thing that I'm working on the most. My other half, my husband, he's really working on systems to be able to, we've identified the things that are taking his time so that he can step away more, the things that don't wait till, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to get worked on. So that piece is underway with him. But for me, I've been focusing quite a bit on just getting the marketing going for the new business. And then the other thing is looking at the impact of AI on the bookkeeping business. There's a tremendous amount of hype around it right now. I went to a conference in June, and I was like, oh man, this is here now. And we had missed the year before because of a family situation. And I'm like, I feel like I lost 10 years by missing last year. But then I started digging in, and I'm like, it's just being sold really well. It's not quite where, I don't think it's quite where it needs to be from an accounting standpoint yet. So it'll be there soon, but I didn't feel as behind once I dug in and started doing trials and that kind of thing. So
interesting. So you have run pilots, and you found that it's just not ready for prime time. In are you looking at it as it running functions, or do you look at it as a thought partner, or do you look at it for data analysis?
The Claudes, which is my favorite, the Chat GPT, there's a lot that can be done there, and we're utilizing that in our business. But what I saw at the accounting technology conferences were, here is the new AI native general ledger that's gonna, knock QuickBooks off of the top. And there was 3 of them that were just talking about all of this great performance and, accuracy and all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh, they're talking my language. But then when I got in there, I'm like, it may work for an individual, but for it to work in a firm environment, they're not there yet. So
interesting.
Yeah. So,
well, that's the hype cycle, right?
Yeah.
We're in that mode where everybody has the silver bullet, and
trying to be first.
Not always the case.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now let's talk a little bit about. We kind of understand where you're coming from. You're in the trenches. You do the work just like everybody else. So, let's talk about Profit First and share some of those principles and why they make such a difference for specifically small to medium-sized businesses, anywhere from the folks that listen are usually, running companies anywhere from 25 employees to 500 employees.
Okay.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, Profit First works for any size business. In fact, I started it when it was just me, and it made a huge difference in how I grew because I was able to use the principles as kind of the milestones for how I grew. Profit First is a cash flow management system. It's made to work with our behavior. We can all have spreadsheets and try to do the forecasting, and we do that for our clients and we help them with that. And there's definitely a place for it, but it's a time-consuming thing. And Profit First, if you can get that set up and working within your business, it just gives you a lot of data by the way you run your business. It's based on a principle called Parkinson's Law. That's one of the primary foundations of it. Parkinson's Law was created in the 1950s by a British naval historian. He learned that no matter what resources showed up in the British Navy, as he studied it, those resources were used and absorbed, and they, there was not a surplus that stayed around. So what he learned was that no matter what resource you have, whether it's time or money, we use what we got. And so if you've got a whole lot of you got a brand new tube of toothpaste, is what I like to talk about when I speak. If you got a brand new tube of toothpaste, you're not worrying about how much toothpaste you use. If you're down to the end and that's the last you got, you get a little more careful about it. So right. Parkinson's Law helps us understand by putting in place some scarcity within our business finances. So you use bank accounts much the same way that maybe your grandmother, my grandmother did. They would set aside cash for, this is my grocery money, this is my money for Christmas, etc. You put dollars into your different bank accounts like you would an envelope system to fund a particular part of your business. The reason it's called Profit First is the first thing that you fund is your profit, because the disease that we all have as entrepreneurs is paying ourselves last and, plowing all of the money back into the business, which creates really a false dynamic for how healthy the business is. So by separating out bank accounts for profit, for owner's pay, for tax, and for your operating expenses, and for my clients, we have an account for inventory as well. That helps you know when you get $100 in, how much you can put in each of those bank accounts based on, we dive in, we look at the performance of the business, but say it's 30% that needs to go into your inventory account. Then you put that $30 there, you put the $15 in for your tax, you put the $15 in for your profit and pay, etc. And so then you live within your means for what you have set aside. And what that typically means is that there's less money in operating expenses, and then people have to tighten up and they have to become more frugal. They have to become more innovative. They have to become more efficient. And, all of those things are really good drivers for our business, because if we're not doing it, somebody else is going to come in and figure out a way to do it cheaper than we are. And so by setting up those bank accounts, living within the scarcity that we create in those accounts, it sets us up to be profitable from the start.
Yeah, so we do this and we talk to other companies about doing this. And what's funny is how many companies we speak to that go, it just seems like a pain. Yeah. I'm going to code. So I'm just going to code it correctly, and I'll just work from that in my system instead of working from the bank account. What do you say to those companies?
I ask them when they get up in the morning or first sit down at their desk, do they log into their accounting system or do they log into their bank account? And I will tell you, most of them log into their bank account. And what they see in their bank account is what tells them whether they have a good day or whether they have a bad day. And because if you log into your bank account and you see that, you don't have enough money to make payroll, then you get busy. You got to figure out, what are we going to sell? What are we going to do? How am I going to move money, et cetera? And I tried myself to do it. I'm like, I'm a QuickBooks person. I can do all of this.
Yeah.
And I tried it myself. Then I got behind on my coding. And then I'm looking at my bank, online banking in the morning. And I'm like, how did I get here? So I just know the behavior is we look at our bank accounts. I've seen it too many times. In fact, when I speak, I ask people to raise their hand. How many of you look at your bank account every morning, every week, whatever? Majority of people are looking at their bank account every day. And so that's a dashboard. Let's turn it into a dashboard as opposed to having everything in one bucket. And we don't know how much we've got for any particular thing. If you look at a bowl of vegetable soup, you don't know how many carrots are in there or how many potatoes, So just by having an account specifically for a function, you can tell how you're doing just by looking at your bank account.
Yeah. Another place I see a challenge is when you don't use this system, and at minimum, you don't use the coding and you don't, operate that way. So at worst case, and then there's plenty who just say, yeah, there's one big bucket. That's
Yes.
very dangerous. But then you end up seeing these people basically sell themselves into the poorhouse.
Mhm.
So, they have a ton of revenue that comes in. They start doing really, really well. And all of a sudden, more business on more business, they feel like that's the holy water for the business, like all sins are removed. And that's actually, they're digging themselves deeper and deeper into a hole. I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that.
Oh, absolutely. When I first started working in e-commerce, the biggest challenge I had was getting people to listen to me, that the revenue, the sales number that they were seeing on Shopify or Amazon, that wasn't the number to pay attention to. But they're like, no, but I hit such and such a number. I'm like, well, good for you. How much did you keep? And they look at me like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I'm like, exactly. I mean, we're not in this business to hit some milestone revenue number. We're in this business to, take care of our families or, to grow it or whatever your motivation is. Maybe it's to sell it, but whatever that motivation is, it matters how the cash flow works. It's not how many dollars comes in. It's how much profit are you able to take out of the business. I mean, real cash profit, not some paper number on the bottom of the P&L, but real cash profit, and how much, how much money is flowing through to allow you to achieve the growth goals that you want. So revenue can, it can mask a lot of sins, but it also can it can set you up. Yeah, exactly. It can also like throw gas on a fire type of thing.
Yeah.
I've seen that with people with loans too. They say, well, I just need a loan. I'm like, you don't have a stable system here. You don't have a stable way to make money. So your loan is coming in to just mask the problem that you've got. And yeah, you may need a little one to get by, but we got to fix the real problem. And that's hard for people to hear.
Well, this is a long-term consideration, and a loan is a short-term answer.
Right.
But it's interesting because when we start talking about setting up different accounts and managing it, no matter how you do it, there's work involved in it.
Right.
And that's a requirement, and it's a pattern and a mindset that you have to get into. So why doesn't everybody do it?
A lot of people, they don't buy into the mindset aspect of it. They feel like they can handle it. Oftentimes they don't have a revenue problem. So they think, well, I've got enough money coming in. I'm making good decisions, whatever. But that all changes really quickly when Amazon decides to raise fees, or when there's tariffs today and they weren't there yesterday. You didn't plan for them, but you've got a shipment now coming in that's going to be impacted. So, when things start to get tighter, that's when you really have to pay attention to it. So I don't think they felt the pain yet, is I think the answer to that question. They just haven't had the pain. honestly,
which
now
everybody will feel. You know, it's like that's
I
what I
don't know
always
anybody that's not feeling it in my world right now. So I don't see
Yeah.
those people anymore.
Well, I don't trust entrepreneurs until they've, you know, grown to a stage where they've had something, you know, you get kicked in the
Yeah.
teeth and you go, oh,
Oh, I got to pay attention.
I don't know everything, right?
Yeah.
And all of us have to have that
Yeah.
happen, I'm sure.
Yeah. We have to follow, figure it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. So in terms of those challenges that you're talking about, like when that starts to bubble up, like if I'm a smaller company and I haven't experienced this yet, or even if I'm a fast growing company and I really haven't felt this pain yet, what are the early warning signs that I should pay attention to know that I have to have a profit first system? I can hear all this right now, but like before I pay my dumb tax and before I feel that pain, what are the things I should be looking for?
Well, the nice thing about Profit First is that it gives you a benchmark. In Mike's book and in my book, I give you the benchmark for this, depending on the size of the company you are. It tells you how much you should be paying yourself. It tells you how much you should be putting aside for taxes and for profit and for operating expenses. So an easy thing to do is just check against that benchmark. And if you're out of whack in one of those areas, then you've got something to be paying attention to and you need to start working. What people typically see when they do that, it is sobering because they think that, you know, if they're thinking that things are going pretty well, what they realize is, they're managed to have dollars at tax time, or they manage to have enough to pay, you know, what they need for their family, but they really don't understand the impact of not being careful with those dollars on the growth of the business. Because so OPEX is where it's always at. It's where we always start, is looking at your OPEX and figuring out, all right, what are you paying for every month? And do you need it? Can you cut it? Can you cut back on it? Or is it something that's critical you have to keep? And typically when we do that with our clients, it's like $1,800 a month we can cut out of their spending. And, you know, that just goes straight to your pocket.
Exactly. Yeah. So when we talk about those benchmarks, like let's just run through an example of that, just so I can get a feel for it. So say we're a $50 million company, got 300 employees.
Okay.
And
let me find my little sheet here because I don't have it memorized. Okay. 50 million. Then, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to worry about the inventory side of it. I mean, that's a big worry for how I do it. But in this example, 50 million means that you should be taking 20% profit.
Okay.
You shouldn't be paying yourself at that size of an organization. The business should be able to run without you. So the owners take pay when they're working in the business. When they're not working in the business, they take profit. Tax 15%. That's the number that Mike benchmarked when he did his research. Honestly, I don't see my clients hitting 15% very often. So I think that number's a little on the high side. And then operating expenses are 65%. So, and this number is based on what we call real revenue. So revenue, no matter what business you're in, say an e-commerce business, we have, 50 million that comes in revenue, but we know we've got to peel off about a third of that to buy the inventory. So that's going to leave us, let's just say it's going to leave us with, $30,000. That 30,000 in real revenue is the tiers, that is how the tiers are made up. And so by doing that, Mike was able to levelize all businesses, whether you're a accounting firm or an electrician or a dentist or an e-commerce person. When you get down to real revenue, the expenses that flow after that are how you can use these tiers. It
so
works.
the benchmarks you're talking about, though, are what percentage of profit I should be setting aside. That's an example of based on size. that profit level changes.
Yes.
Is
And
one of them.
yeah. So for example, if you're looking at your P&L, a quick way to look at this, and we do it a little differently because it's total cash based. And so a $50 million company would be doing accrual books. But from a cash perspective, if you get 50 million in revenue and you spend 20 or 30 million in on your product, then what's left, that's what's used to be divided out. And you can get
So
close
would you be
to that
viewed
with
as a
your
$50
gross
million?
margin.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Would you be viewed as a $50 million company or a $25 or $30 million company?
25 or 30 million in terms of using this chart. So
Sure.
a company can look at their gross margin and start to get an approximation of that.
Got it.
And learn, because everything that happens after the gross margin level has to be what's used to pay yourself or to pay back debt or pay back pay taxes, et cetera. So yes, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, that sounds like work to kind of figure out, well, look at your books. Gross margin's a pretty close way to start to figure where you're at.
Yeah. And it's not that hard.
It's not that hard.
Yeah. Especially if you read the book. So, okay. So let's talk about, give us an example of when you have implemented this with someone and what did it mean to their business and what did it mean to them? We can all have our personal stories, but when we're able to replicate it for other companies, that's always interesting.
Yeah. One of my clients, I love to see what they're doing. They've been doing Profit First for a while now, but when they first started, they were over $1 million in debt. I think at the time were $7 or $8 million in revenue, top line revenue, not the real revenue we were just talking about. And they were doing well, but they were reliant on the debt and they wanted to get out of debt. So we started working with them to develop a plan to pay back that debt. So now they're close to 30 million, I think. And I think that's their goal this year. And I believe they're going to hit it. And they have no debt. They've grown leaps and bounds. They've just they've hired people. It's the thing you want to see. You want to see that engine working where the owners are getting rewarded. They don't work. Most of them don't work in the business at all. They've got a integrator running the business from the traction,
EOS.
EOS system. And yes, it's just really neat to watch what's going on with them. And this year's been hard for e-commerce, but the nice thing is with Profit First, as you set aside dollars for profit, one of the things that we do is we use part of that money, half of it every quarter, to reward the owners, but the other half of it is set to build up over time to become funds to use for growth or whatever. In their case, we used it to pay down that debt aggressively, and now they're using it for growing product lines and distribution channels and things like that.
That's great. And what kind of time frame was that again?
Trying to think. I started working with them on Profit First before we worked with them doing their accounting. I feel like we've been working 6 years, but they've been debt free for 4 at least. I mean, we were.
Oh, wow. So it only took a couple of years for them to get to that point. And that's literally just changing their mindset and putting this little teeny bit of discipline in place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And realizing that the payoff was get that debt paid down, then we can grow aggressively and spend the dollars on the building the business the way we want to. And
was that their biggest challenge? Is that they kept reinvesting in the company or working towards something, and they really weren't at a stage where they should be doing that? Or
yeah, and that's what tends to happen. They most of them, before they have things dialed in from a performance standpoint in the business, they're looking at ways to get. They think that loans will be the thing that allows them to grow quicker, and what tends to happen is Parkinson's law works against them, because now they've got a lot of money in their bank account, and instead of being strategic and growing within the means that the business can support. They just spend money much more carelessly. And that's not an indictment on this particular client. It's just what I see generally with folks.
No, it's that VC mindset, right? Instead of focusing on how do I create a stable, sustainable business, we think about where can I get money that allows me to scale before I've even figured out, the components.
Am I profitable on my product?
You gotta nail it before you scale it, right?
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And many people don't even know the profitability on their products. So, I'm like, how can we say it's a great idea to go take money to grow something that we don't even know if it's profitable or not, Yeah. And so, it's definitely a mindset change.
Cyndi, I know you said that this is applicable to everybody all the time, and anybody can use it in any size company. But is there a time where you feel like it's most effective? Is there a growth stage where you would say, boy, if you're at this stage and you haven't done this yet, you've made a major error? Or do you say, no, this is core and foundational to everything a company does?
I had started my business it was probably 2 years old before I found Profit First. And I was of this mindset that, my husband was working, in a corporate job at that point. So this was kind of my side hustle, something to do while my daughter was home. And so I looked at it from the standpoint of, I don't need to make money. And so for the first 2 years, I operated at a loss. And then when I met Mike and I learned Profit First, it kind of gamified it, if you will. I'm like, well, I can be profitable, and it really, it changed everything about how I thought. And I wish I had known it from the beginning, because it's so easy to do from the beginning. And from the beginning, and like with the new business that I started, we follow the Profit First percentages. The money comes into our bank account and every Monday morning, those dollars are divided into those bank accounts. I don't move them. The bank does it, and it just happens automatically. And we look at what the operating expense budget is, and we stay within it. And I think it helps no matter what size you are, no matter what stage you are. It's a discipline. It teaches you to think about the important things in your business, and it gives you a benchmark to gauge against, to know how you're doing. And then once you get the hang of it, in my book, I talk about this client. His name is Mark, and he loved it. And by the time he sold his business, not too long after my book came out, but he had over 23 different bank accounts. He had figured out, okay, wow. In addition to what I've got here, if I have my inventory account, then I need a license account because I've got royalties, and I want an ad account because if my sales are not growing as quick as my ad spend, my ads aren't working. And then he had a shipping account because he realized that at the time, diesel fuel was fluctuating all over the place. So if he started running short in his shipping account, he knew he had to change his shipping charges that he made for his client. So everything, he had worked it long enough, and we had dialed it in to where he knew if my dollars start looking short here, then something's changed. I've got to go pay attention. And it was his, it was his dashboard. It was his early warning system. There's been something going on. And you see that so much quicker in your bank than you're going to see it in a financial statement, because as good and as hard as we try, we're still going to be, as much as 6 weeks behind, because, from the beginning of the month till the 15th, when we can get statements out, you could be 6 months behind on something, but your bank account, it immediately. Yeah.
That's funny. I've never heard of somebody using their bank account as their business dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to find out if Chase or Wells Fargo or Bank of America, whoever it was, they just put themselves in the dashboard business. That's interesting.
Yeah. In the e-commerce space, there's a lot of fintech companies that are doing he was using Mercury. Relay Bank is the one that I love. They're affiliated with Profit First. It was built with Profit First in mind. And what's really nice about it is they have really great dashboards, and they have great automations to help you move money, et cetera. But they also don't charge fees. And so, to go to a bank
model, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you go to a Bank of America and I'm telling you to open 23 bank accounts. They're like, oh God, how's this going to cost?
Right. It's your biggest CapEx expense.
Yeah, exactly. So there's other options out there though, that you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah. Okay. So Cyndi, this has been fantastic, super helpful. We're going to, people are going to stop listening in a second here, and they're going to go do something.
Yeah.
First thing, obviously, is read your book or Mike's book and be able to learn from that. But what is the thing from a discipline mindset perspective that you would recommend somebody does as soon as they get done with this? What's the immediate next steps?
I would open up a bank account, a savings account for profit. And for every dollar that comes in, I would move 1 to 3%, depending on what you think you can do, into that profit account. So if you're making a deposit for $10,000 on Monday morning, then move, do my math here, is it 300? but 300 in that profit account, and you will start to see that you're carving money out to put your profit first. So that's what I would do.
Start with one account.
One account, yeah. You can start with one.
Just start putting some money away.
Yeah, and get the hang of it. Yeah,
that's really smart, and I do recommend it for all the companies that are out there, because it really does change your mindset around money and just your perspective on it. So super helpful, Cyndi. This has been awesome. We appreciate you giving us so much time, and
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that we put your contact details in this, and highly recommend people reach out to you if you need some support in this area.
Yeah, we'd love to help. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.